Picture leaving your garden for a week in the middle of July. No neighbor coming to water, no timer, no sprinkler, no drip line ticking away. You come home and the tomatoes are heavy and split free, the lettuce is sweet, the soil is damp 2 inches down, and you never touched a hose the entire time. That is not a fantasy, and it is not some new gadget. It is a bed with a hidden tank of water built into the bottom of it, and the soil drinks from that tank by itself, exactly as fast as the plants need it. You fill it once. It waters your garden for a week, sometimes longer, and the whole thing costs about $20 in materials you can carry out of a hardware store in one trip. It is called a wicking bed, and the strangest part of the story is not that it works. It's that we knew about it for the better part of a century and quietly stopped building them. Because this is not a modern invention. The physics behind it, water climbing upward through soil on its own, is the same force that pulls coffee up into a sugar cube or water up the corner of a paper towel when you dip it in a glass. Farmers in ancient Persia used a version of it, drawing water up through buried clay. Chinese growers did the same for centuries. And in the modern age, it was patented, written up, refined. A buried reservoir under a planter that fed the soil from below. No pump, no power, just physics doing the work for free. So here's the question worth asking before this summer burns out another garden. If a bed that waters itself for a week can be built for $20 out of parts from any hardware store on principles we have understood for 100 years, why is almost nobody building them? Why are we still standing out there every evening with a hose, watering by hand? Like there was never another way? Let's trace it back, and then I'll show you exactly how to build one. The idea is almost insultingly simple once you see it. A normal garden waters from the top down. You pour water on the surface, gravity pulls it down through the soil, most of it drains past the roots and away, and a huge share of what's left simply evaporates off the hot surface before the plant ever drinks it. You are fighting gravity and the sun at the same time, every single day, and losing most of the water to both. A wicking bed flips that completely. Instead of watering from the top, it waters from the bottom. You build a sealed reservoir, a tank of water, into the base of the bed with the soil sitting above it. And the soil does something soil naturally does. It wicks. Water climbs up out of the reservoir through the soil by capillary action, the same silent pull that lifts water up a paper towel against gravity. It rises until it reaches the moisture the roots have already drunk, and then it stops. The bed pulls up exactly as much water as the plants have used, and not a drop more. It is self-regulating. It cannot overwater, and as long as there is water in the tank, it cannot underwater either. And because the water moves underground, the sun never touches it. There is no wet surface baking in the heat, so almost nothing is lost to evaporation. The water you put in the reservoir goes into plants, not into the air. That is the whole reason a wicking bed can stretch a single fill across a week or more, while a normal bed needs watering every day in the same heat. You are not using more water. You are using a fraction of it, because you finally stopped wasting most of it. The people who worked in dry country understood this kind of thinking for thousands of years. Get the water below the surface out of the sun and let it move up to the roots. The wicking bed is just the cleanest, simplest, most buildable version of that ancient idea. And we had it. It was patented. It was documented. It worked. It just never got sold to you because there is no product to sell. A bed that waters itself for free does not move sprinklers off a shelf, does not sell timers and hoses and drip kits every spring. So it sat in the background while the watering aisle got bigger and bigger. Now, before I show you how to build one, Let me be straight with you about the catches, because there are a few, and they are the difference between a bed that works for years and one that fails in a month. This is the honest part the quick videos skip. First, and most important, it must have an overflow. A sealed reservoir with no way out is a disaster waiting for the first heavy rain. When a downpour fills the bed from the top, that water has to be able to escape, or the reservoir floods up into the root zone, drowns your plants, and goes stagnant and sour. The overflow hole is not optional. It is the single most important part of the whole build, and it is also the part people most often leave out. Second, the soil depth has to respect the physics. Capillary action, that upward wicking, only reaches so high. Push it much past about a foot of soil above the reservoir, and the water simply cannot climb to the top. Your surface stays dry no matter how full the tank is. So a wicking bed wants a soil depth of roughly a foot, no more. This is a method for raised beds and containers where you control the depth. It does not work in open ground, and it is not for deep-rooted shrubs or trees that outgrow the wicking zone. Third, you need the right soil. The whole thing depends on soil that actually wicks. A good water-holding mix with real structure. Pure sand won't hold the moisture. Heavy raw clay won't let it climb. A decent compost-rich potting or garden mix is what carries the water up. Get those three things right: an overflow, the right depth, the right soil, and the bed will run for years. Get them wrong, and people blame the method, when really they skipped the catch. Now you know them, so yours will work. If you want the full build written out, exact reservoir depth, the overflow placement, the soil mix, and how to scale it from a single container up to a full bed, that is one of the builds in the guide I keep for this channel, alongside the rest of the old ways of keeping a garden alive through heat and drought. But you do not need it to build your first one. So let me walk you through it, start to finish, right now. Here is how you build a bed that waters itself. Start with your container, a raised bed, a deep tub, a half barrel, a sturdy storage tote, anything that holds soil and can hold water in its base. The simplest first build is a single large container, and you scale up from there once you've seen it work. Step 1. Line it. If the container isn't already waterproof, line the inside with a pond liner or heavy plastic sheet, running it up all four sides because the bottom third of this bed has to hold water like a bathtub. This is your reservoir wall. Step 2. Build the reservoir. Fill the bottom 4 to 6 inches with something that holds water in the gaps between it, gravel, coarse sand, or even clean rinsed plastic bottles for a lightweight fill. This layer is your hidden tank. The water lives in the spaces here. Step 3. Set the fill pipe. Stand a length of pipe upright in the reservoir, reaching right down to the bottom, with its top sticking up above the soil line. This is how you fill the tank. You pour water down this pipe, and it fills the reservoir from the bottom up. Cut a few slots in the buried end so the water flows out freely. Step 4, and do not skip this one, drill the overflow. Make a hole through the container wall right at the top of your reservoir layer, at the height where the gravel ends. This is the escape valve. It guarantees the water level can never rise above the reservoir and into the roots. When you fill the bed and water starts trickling from this hole, you know the tank is full. That trickle is the bed telling you to stop. Step 5. Lay the barrier. Cover the reservoir with a layer of landscape fabric or shade cloth. This is the divider that keeps your soil from washing down into the gravel and clogging the tank. Soil on top, water below, the fabric keeping them apart while still letting the moisture wick up through it. Leave the fabric loose enough that it can dip down and touch the water in a spot or two, which helps the wicking start. Step 6. Add your soil. Fill the rest of the bed with a good water-holding garden or potting mix, remembering to keep that soil layer around a foot deep so the water can wick all the way to the top. Then plant as you normally would. Step 7. Cap it with mulch. Lay 2 inches of straw, leaves, or wood chips over the surface. This is the finishing touch that does an enormous amount of quiet work. It stops the top from drying out and stretches your refill interval even further. Then you fill the reservoir through the pipe until the overflow runs, and you are done. From that moment, the bed waters itself. In peak summer heat, you might pour water down that pipe once a week. In milder weather, once every 2 or 3 weeks. You go from standing over your garden every single evening to glancing at a fill pipe every so often. And your plants, drinking steady, even moisture from below, will give you better tomatoes, sweeter lettuce, and a longer season than they ever did under the hose. Which brings us back to where we started. We did not stop building these because they failed. They never failed. The physics is older than any of us, the patents are a century old, and every wicking bed built right is still quietly working. We stopped because somewhere along the way, watering became something you do with a product you buy. A hose, a timer, a sprinkler, a drip kit, refilled and replaced every season. And a $20 bed that waters itself for free, for years, does not sell any of that. It was never a secret. It was just never on the shelf. The knowledge was never lost. It was just never sold to you. Now you have it. So tell me, down in the comments, how often are you out there watering right now? In the worst of the heat, every day, twice a day. Tell me what your summer watering looks like, because I want you to imagine doing it once a week instead, and then go build the thing that makes that real. And if you want the rest of these, the forgotten ways of keeping a garden alive through heat and drought that nobody teaches anymore, subscribe and stay with me. The next one is about catching the rain itself, shaping the ground so that every drop that falls on your land soaks in and stays, instead of running away, the way people watered whole gardens without ever turning on a tap. I'll see you then. Keep it alive out there.